Good morning. Wow, that's loud. Oh, Juanita can hear, so I guess that's good. I guess let's just leave it right there. And I'll try to not be quite as loud. Today, we're going to start hopefully a 6-part lesson on Ecclesiastes. And Ecclesiastes is not an instructional book as far as, what makes us a better Christian. Ecclesiastes is not that book. Ecclesiastes is a book that reminds us about life. And it reminds us of how there are things that we can change but probably aren't going to. How the world really works. It's written by Solomon, who was the what? Somebody tell me, who's Solomon?
Son of David.
Son
of David, I think.
Son of David. And who was David? Man after God's own heart. Nobody can say he was the third king of the David, the guy that killed Goliath. Okay. So I can see we're going to run in circles today. Solomon was the third king over the Israelites, right? Correct? Okay, all right. Now, trying to get a little bit of a acknowledgement that somebody's speaking. Richest man in the world. What else was he? Juanita. Yeah, but you don't have the microphone on, so when you go like this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Wisest man in the world. And why was he wise? Why was Solomon wise? Because he what? Because he asked to be wise. So he had to be a little bit wise to ask to be wise. You give me so much information. Uh-oh, that's not going to work. Okay, are we good? All right, I'm back on. And the one theme is that without God, this whole world and this whole thing that we live in is of no use. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to take 2 chapters a week, because they give me 6 weeks. So I'm going to try to take 2 chapters a week, and we're going to go through. Now, I'm going to do the same thing that I do with any other book that we have. And there's some other things, some prerequisites that I like to get out of the way, and that is, I fully don't intend to tell you something that you don't already know. Y'all are all intelligent Bible scholars in here, and you know, I may pick your brain a little bit and make you think something a different way, but not anything I'm going to tell you is new. So I don't feel like I'm teaching you something. I feel like this is a reminder class. This is a bring to your remembrance class. And there's going to be some things that we're going to talk about briefly that we're going to touch on. We're not going to get too deep into them. But there's some things that briefly we're going to talk on that will apply today. So, but that's throughout the 6 lessons, not necessarily today. And the other thing that I always say is, whenever I start one of these books, is that if nothing else, by the end of these series of lessons, you will have read or had been read to the book of Ecclesiastes. Because we're going to read the book as we go through. I can't paraphrase it any. That's just the way it is. So, let me see if I had anything else that I wanted to. Okay. So, we've already established who the book is written by, and so let's just go ahead and get into this book. There's I'm going to, something I don't normally do, but I'm going to actually be reading out of 2 different translations. I'm going to be using the NIV, and I'm going to be using the Bible that the disciples used, the King James Version. So, because I like the word vanity of vanities. So, Ecclesiastes, the 1st chapter. The word of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Vanity of vanity, saith the preacher, vanity of vanity, all is vanity. What profit hath a man of all his labor which he takes under the sun? One generation passes away, and another generation cometh. But the earth abides forever. The sun also rises, and the sun goes down, and hastens to the place where it arose. The winds go toward the south, and turn about into the north, and it whirls about continually, and the wind returneth again according to its circuits. All the rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not filled. Unto the place from whence the rivers come, hither they return again. All things are full of labor. Man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. The thing that has been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done. There is no new thing under the sun. That is, anything whereof it is maybe said, see, this is new. It hath not already been of old times, which was before us. There is no remembrance of former things, neither shall there be any remembrance of things that are to come with those that come after. Vanity is vanity. And the word vanity means meaningless, empty, useless, I could see that's in that light. Yeah, I could see that. But that is true, and eventually that's going to be part of this. Is that whatever you do here right now, you might as well be happy in it and be happy about your own achievement, because that's going to be your reward. But without God, that's all you're going to have. So it's talking about the sea. It talks about how the rivers run and the sea doesn't fill up. But it talks about the winds, and it talks about how they go in the circuits and they return back to themselves. And it talks about how the ear doesn't get full. And the eye doesn't quit seeing. Well, you can shut your eyes and you say, well, I can make my eyes quit seeing. But when you shut your eyes, what happens? Now your brain kicks in and you're still seeing things, aren't you? It's like this. Everything is like this. No, you don't have the power to change it. It's like this all the time. You're moving. You're labor. Everything's full of labor. The whole world's full of labor. Everything is moving. Everything's moving. What good does it do? You mean it's been moving before you came along? And it's going to be moving after you're gone? Moving. We're moving. What good does it do? Nothing. Yeah. It goes on. Life goes on. It just moves and moves and moves. Everything is full of labor. And the thing about it is, we think what is important is what's right now. Right now. But the people that came before us thought what was important was what? Right then. And the ones that came before them, right then. And it's the most important thing. And guess what? Those that are going to come after us are going to do what? Same thing. It's the same thing. It just keeps going and going and going. Life is full of labor. So, what does Solomon do? He says, in verse 12, I, the teacher, was king over Israel, and I applied myself to study, and I'm in the NIV now. Now, why I changed, I don't know, but I changed. And the teacher was king over Israel in Jerusalem. I applied my mind to study and to explore wisdom. All of the things done under the sun. And what a heavy burden God has laid on mankind. And I have seen all things that are done under the sun, and all of them are meaningless and chasing after wind. All of them. What is crooked cannot be straightened, and what is lacking cannot be counted. What is crooked cannot be straightened, and what is lacking cannot be counted. I just bought some cows the other day, and I bought 10 of them, and I'll be dadgum if I can't count but 8 now. I got 2 missing. I can't count them 2 until I find them, can I? They're gone. They're lacking. They're gone. They'll be back, though. I'm sure of it. I'm sure of it. And I said to myself, look, I have increased in wisdom more than anyone who has ruled over Jerusalem before me. I have experienced much wisdom and knowledge. Then I applied myself to the understanding of wisdom and also of madness and folly. But I learned this too, is chasing after wind. For with much wisdom comes much sorrow, and more knowledge, the more grief. So he says the world is full of labor. So maybe it's wisdom that's what we need. And he says, what about wisdom? It's not all it's cracked up to be, is it? Because the more you know, the more trouble you can get into, the more responsibilities they have, the more grief that comes with it, the more sorrow that comes with it, because you know things should be one way and they're another way. The more you know, the more is expected of you. That's why I try not to know anything. The less you know, the better off you are. So, chapter 2. He's talking now, he's saying, okay, well, wisdom, that's not where it's at. So let's try something else. He said to myself, come now, I will test you with pleasure, to find out what is good. What that also proved to be meaningless. But that also proved to be meaningless. Laughter, I said, is madness. And what does pleasure accomplish? I tried cheering myself with wine and embracing folly, my mind still guiding me with wisdom. So in other words, I used wine, but I kept my wisdom about me, and I was careful about what I did to know that what I was doing was not good. He said, I want to see what is good for people to do under the heavens during the few days of their lives. I undertook great projects. Now this is all about pleasure. I built houses for myself. I planted vineyards. I made gardens and parks and planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. I made reservoirs to water groves of flourishing trees. I bought male and female slaves and other slaves who were born in my house. And I also owned more herds and flock than anyone in Jerusalem before me. I amassed silver and gold for myself and treasures for kings and provinces. I acquired male and female singers and an harem as well, and the delights of a man's heart. It became greater by far than anyone in Jerusalem before me. And all this my wisdom stayed with me. I did all these things, and I was wise, and I was determined. I knew what I was doing. I had a purpose in mind when I did it. And he said, I denied myself nothing. I said, denied myself nothing my eyes desired. I refused my heart no pleasure. My heart took delight in all my labor, and this was the reward for my toil. When I surveyed all that my hands had done and what I had toiled and achieved, everything was meaningless and chasing after wind, and nothing was gained under the sun. So he built an empire. I mean, he built massive vineyards, reservoirs. I mean, He did a lot of stuff. What was that word you used, Sharon, back there, that when we talked about vanity? He could hook his suspenders and put them out there and say, look what I have done, right? And what did he get him? It got him just that. He got to hook his suspenders and say, look what I have done. That's what it got him. So, he says, then I turned my thoughts to consider wisdom and also madness and folly. What more the king's successors do than what has already been done? So what else could he do? Huh? Nothing. I'm losing my spot here. I saw that wisdom was better than folly, just as light is better than darkness. And the wise have eyes in their heads, while the fools walk around in darkness. So, is it better to be wise than a fool? You think so, right? Right? Okay. The wise have the eyes in their heads, the foolish walk around in darkness. But I came to realize that the same fate overtakes both. Then I said to myself, the fate of the fool will overtake me also. What then do I gain by being wise? I say to myself, this is meaningless too, for the wise, like the fool, will not be long remembered. The days have already come, both have been forgotten. Like the fool, the wise too must die. Is it better to be wise or to be foolish?
Yes. The fool doesn't know. The wise can only lament.
Well, that's what he's saying. The fool don't know, but the wise is very sorrowful. And you go, man, what in the world is Solomon talking about in this book? This is a real downer. This is a downer. I mean, nothing is good, all is vanity, everything's terrible. So I hated life. Verse 7, I hated life because the works that are done under the sun were grievous to me. I was just tired of the labor. All of this is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. I hated all things that I had toiled under the sun. Why? Why do I hate all those things? Because I must leave them to the one who comes after me. And who knows whether that person be wise or foolish. Yet, they will have control over all the fruit of my toil in which I have poured my efforts and skill under the sun. This too is meaningless. So my heart began to despair over all my toilsome labor under the sun. For a person may labor with wisdom and knowledge and skill, and then they must leave all they own to another who has not toiled for it. This too is meaningless and a great misfortune. What do people get for all the toil and anxious striving with such they labor under the sun? All the days their work is grief and pain. Even at night their minds do not rest. This too is meaningless. You have no way of knowing.
Why do we work so hard for what we are going to leave to somebody else?
I get so upset with my mom. My mom has always lived a frugal life. She's never wanted jewelry. She's just not a. Would you agree? I mean, she's just a frugal. She just doesn't care. She doesn't care. She's happy with life. She don't care. And she said, well, I might like to get something. I said, well, why don't you just go get it, Mom? Oh, well, I don't really need it. I said, okay, well, but why don't you get it? Well, I just want to leave you kids something. I don't want to spend all of them. I said, Mom, don't leave us nothing. We don't want nothing. Oh, well, the Bible says you're supposed to leave your kids something. Where does it say that, Mom? And there is a verse. She came up with a verse. I can't even remember where it is now. That says something like, and I looked at the verse and I read before it and read after it and some stuff. And I said, Mom, that ain't what that means. I said, why don't you spend your money? Because if you don't spend it, you're going to give it to like 5, maybe not so wise people. And you don't know how they're going to spend it. But that's the way it is with everything. What good is it to accumulate all this wealth? Is that wealth going to buy you into heaven? Absolutely not. There's a good possibility it might. A person can do nothing better, verse 24, than to eat and drink and find satisfaction in their own toil. For this too, and because when you read that, if you stopped right there, you would think, well, it goes back up to the other verse that was talking about putting out your suspenders and saying, look what I've done, and we talk about the rich man that had the bumper crop. I'll tear down my barns and I'll build bigger barns, and I'll eat, drink, and be merry. But when you read the rest of that verse, it says, this too I see is from the hand of God. For without him, you can eat or drink. For without him, who can eat or find enjoyment? To the person who pleases him, God gives wisdom, knowledge, and happiness. But to the sinner, he gives the task of gathering and storing up wealth to hand it over to the one who pleases God. This too is meaningless and chasing after winds. So, what is Solomon saying in these 2 chapters? Give me a little wrap up of what he's saying here.
All of your labor is not for the glory of God. Whatever it is, there's nothing wrong with gaining money and having all this other stuff. But if it's not for the glory of God, then it's meaningless.
It's meaningless. Without God, anything that we do is meaningless. How many times do we in our everyday life get wrapped up in the labor not realizing are not thinking about what that labor is about or what that labor is for. Do we let things, do we let the labor control our lives? Do we let the labor motivate us? Do we let the achievements that we have move us toward God? Or do they move us away from God? And all of that has to do with your own mind. I can't say you're not doing what you want to do because you're not thinking about. Only you can determine that. Though it's a hard. I go back to that first part of that chapter. Everything's full of labor. It's just go, 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 go. Go, 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 go. Go, 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 go. That's the way we are every day. Go, 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 go. But why are we going so much? What's the end result? What are we looking for? What are we working for? Are we working for ourselves? Are we working for others? Are we working... It's... Go, 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 go. And when we do, and we build up all this wealth, and then what is it going to be done with it whenever we go? And where are we with God when we go? Are we the wise man? Or are we the foolish man? I would say yes. I would say yes. We need to live our lives. And we don't want to, I can't speak for everybody else. But I really didn't ask, I don't think I asked any of y'all. None of y'all did I ask when I went and bought some cows the other day. I didn't think it's none of your business. Yeah, but I really didn't care what you said. I just wanted to make you feel good. I'm living that. That's my life. Now, what do I do when I sell those cows or sell those calves that come off those cows? What do I do with that money? That's my money. I work for those. Yeah, I did that all by myself. I didn't have no help. I did it all by myself.
We never do everything by ourselves. And I think this is the
Well,
most difficult thing. This is what I think. Are we living
got her,
for
didn't I?
ourselves, or are we
Yeah, you did. You hooked her, boy.
can't leave the Lord out of it?
You can't leave the Lord out of it? Ah! Who do we work for? Who do we work for? The world works for who? Who does the world work for? The world works for themselves. The world puts everything into what they do. They do it for themselves. They have no regard for what God wants. Who does the Christian work for? The Christian works for God. Yes, ma'am. That's true. That's true. That's down to the very core of it. That's true. You're working for Satan. If you're not working for God, you're working for Satan, because there's only two things. It's either this or that. And so when most of the world is working for Satan. They may not. The same way the Christian does not sometimes think about working for God the same way that everyone else does not think in it in terms of I'm doing this for myself. No, you're doing it for Satan.
May I make a personal confession here?
You got about 30 seconds.
You said about the money was yours. I had a gambling problem in my younger days. And then all of a sudden, one day, it dawned on me it wasn't my money I was losing, it was the Lord. I quit just like that.
There you go. Our lives are supposed to be for God. Without God in our life, then those first 2 chapters of Ecclesiastes is vanity, all is vanity without Christ in our lives. And without us doing what Christ wants us to do, without us doing what God wants us to do, then life is meaningless. And next week, we'll start with there's a time for things. So thank you very much.